Michigan Radio, and we're so pleased that you could jump in and join us during the Ann Arbor Summer Festival. I will want to introduce some members of our staff throughout the course of the evening who are here to visit and greet you and also share some stories with you about Michigan Radio. But one of my special guests here tonight that I want you to meet is a gentleman who, if you are a long-term listener of Michigan Radio and WUOM in particular, you will know. And this is a gentleman who, when I first came to the station 7 years ago, when I was considering joining Michigan Radio, some friends of mine said, well, if you're thinking about that, you should talk to Hazen Schumaker. So that's why I decided to become a part of Michigan Radio. It's been certainly a wonderful career decision for myself and my wife Lori, who's also here tonight. So I would like you right now to help me welcome back to a microphone Mr. Hazen Schumaker, right over here. We're so shy in this radio.
You're right. I just want to tell you a story that I heard in this room, so it has nothing to do with anything we're talking about tonight, but you might enjoy it. It's a true story. It was told to me by one of the regents of the university, Trudy Huebner, who worked in the advertising agency involved in this story. Here's the story. It's in the early 1930s, and Heinz ketchup wasn't selling very well. And Heinz decided to start a campaign to sell Heinz ketchup to the women of this country. Men were using it in restaurants. So they decided that there was no television, of course. There wasn't much commercial radio. So they bought the back covers of all the major American magazines. And the campaign went like this. You saw a man sitting at a restaurant table. There's a bottle of Heinz ketchup on the table. He's looking at the menu. Waitress is poised to take his order. And the copy said, what every waitress knows about your husband. And went on to say he likes Heinz ketchup. Well, they were placing the ads in all the magazines until they got to Canada, where Maclean's magazine, you don't sell anything in Canada without getting a Maclean's. But they said they wouldn't accept that copy, what every waitress knows, because it was too sexually suggestive for delicate Canadian sensitivities. So after a lot of negotiation, they finally agreed to let Maclean's write their own copy for the ad. This is absolutely true. This is a true story. Remember the picture. The guy is sitting at the table looking at the menu. Waitress is poised to take the order. There's a bottle of Heinz ketchup on the table. And Maclean's copy was, he gets it downtown, why not give it to him at home? That's enough. Glad you could all come.
That's your opener.
Right.
He's got a million of them.
No, there are too many kids.
No, I know. So, Jazz Revisited. How many people in the room might know of Jazz Revisited on WUOM? Jazz Revisited on WUOM from 1967 to 1998.
Right.
Is that correct? These were half-hour shows every week with really, how would you characterize what you did on Jazz?
Wonderful. Well, it was kind of educating people about jazz, but I'm trying to present it in a format that was enjoyable too. Yes, I'd say that.
And that is a real premium legacy of the station. It's part of the reason why we can celebrate 65 years today. So,
it is.
And I'm so grateful for your dedication. You were here at the University of Michigan from what, 1946?
Oh, geez, yes, I came as an undergrad, yeah.
As an undergrad, then a graduate student.
Right.
And then there was a University of Michigan television service,
right,
which you started in what year?
1950.
1950, and then joined WUOM in 67.
Right. Yes, and then my boss took it over, and then I became director, yeah.
So my title technically to the university is Director of Broadcasting, and this was one of my fine predecessors as Director of Broadcasting at WUOM.
And somebody ought to say something tonight about the job you've done, coming in at an extremely difficult time and doing a wonderful job.
You were too kind. I have been inspired by this gentleman. As I told you earlier, he really was the one giving me the words about what public radio was all about that made me make that decision that I'm very fond of. And I'm also fond of this gentleman because he has not only been a great ambassador for our station through all the years, the years of dedication of doing that show and making that a standout. There is a jazz museum in Germany that when the show retired, decided to archive all of Hazen's shows, and not only archive the shows, but also put out, was it 3 volumes of publication that documented every program.
Right.
And so on every program, there's a complete rundown of what artists were used in the show and some of the background as to why you chose them.
You bet that. And Stevie did this just the way we rehearsed it this afternoon.
But you see, I have those 3 volumes in my office because Hazen came to my office shortly after I joined the station 7 years ago and gave those to me when those were published. They're one of my fond recollections.
Mine too.
And he was just telling me today, the technology back then required those shows to be recorded on big 10-inch reels.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's how they were saved at the station for decades and decades. Well, the technology today has advanced a bit, and Hazen now has 3,000 of his radio shows on a hard drive that fits in his pocket.
Right. That's true.
And so we're going to have to make sure we get a chance to circulate those even more broadly, but we are thrilled that you made the time for us tonight.
Thank you.
And let's have another hand for a wonderful, lovely living legend of WUOM. Also, before we go back to music, I just want to go around the room quickly and introduce some of our staff members. Okay, you can move wherever you'd like.
We're feeding back a little bit here.
Yes, we are. I can tell.
There you go.
I can hear a little bit. So let me start ladies, let me start at the round table right up here. Young ladies, why don't you come front and center here? Yes, you are. Our 2 lovely ladies that are part of our important staff here at Michigan Radio. This is Zoe Clark, who you might be familiar with. We will gush on about both of them individually. First, Zoe has been with us as she was an undergrad intern at Michigan Radio, and once she graduated, we decided we couldn't live without her, and we found a way to bring her on full time. So first, she became a producer for Morning Edition with Christina Shockley. And then last summer, we were deciding about the fact that we wanted to do a daily talk show on Michigan Radio, which you now know as Stateside with Cynthia Canty. And when we were forming that idea, we knew that we had to have an executive producer for the program. We have watched Zoe grow from intern to producer on Morning Edition, and Tamar, Charney, and myself said, it is time for our young Zoe Clark to become executive producer. So Zoe is now executive producer of Stateside with Cynthia Canty, and also a political commentator of sorts, or analyst, with Rick Pluta.
Yes.
It's Just Politics, which you also hear on Michigan Radio. So this is Zoe Clark.
Hi, everyone. I'm usually behind the mic in terms of behind the person in front of the mic. So I'll just say hello very quickly. Thank you all for coming out today. It's wonderful to see all of your faces. Usually I hear, oh, it's so nice to see, your face with your name, but we really do feel the same way about all of you. We're usually in a studio by ourselves or with only a few other people. So these moments are really fun. We actually do picture you now when we can go in front of a mic and think about who we're talking to. So it's great that you all came out, even on this somewhat rainy day, and enjoy yourselves, and thank you very, very much.
And next, I would like to introduce this young woman who has joined us just about a year ago.
Yes,
just
exactly.
about a year ago.
Yeah.
This is Kate Wells from the Michigan Radio Newsroom. Kate is our arts and culture reporter. Actually, sporting a brand new haircut, I just noticed, because it's only a couple days old. I call her Kate Louise at the station because I've met her parents, and I've just decided to use your middle name, and I've already addressed you now.
I like it. Yeah.
So Kate Louise joined us about a year ago from Iowa Public Radio. We have very good breeding that goes on with Iowa Public Radio. Charity Nebby came from Iowa Public Radio to us years ago, and then when Todd Munt left us, we sent him to Iowa Public Radio. So we decided it was time to borrow from Iowa Public Radio again, and Kate joined us a year ago and is just doing a bang-up job so far, and has really a wonderful storytelling, energetic style in her news reporting that I really treasure and love. And a lot of times Kate will find interesting twists to stories that you would not imagine had that type of twist available. It's because of the rapport that she builds with the people that she's interviewing. And then she story tells it. She doesn't news read it to you, she story tells it. And that makes what we call in public radio driveway moments. A lot of Kate's stories become driveway moments where you won't get out of your car until Kate's story is finished. And we're very excited about that. And we're excited to have her on our team. She's won several awards already from the Michigan Association of Broadcasters and the Associated Press, even in her short time with us. So please help me welcome Kate Wells.
Well, I just want to echo Zoe and say how much it means that you guys come out tonight. It really is wonderful. And to me, having worked for, as Steve mentioned, Iowa Public Radio, and before that New Hampshire Public Radio, every station has its own community, and I've gotten to see a little bit about how that makes the station different. And one of the reasons I wanted so badly to come and work at Michigan Radio was that even when I was in Iowa and when I was in New Hampshire, we knew Michigan Radio. It was the Mark deserves a lot of credit over there because it was the one that we at Iowa used as our template for what we wanted our online news presence to look like one day. And it was the one where we listened to Kyle Norris's story of a cross-country coach because we thought it had to sound just the right way. And that would absolutely not be possible. You wouldn't have a station like Michigan Radio if it wasn't for the fact they've got a community that gets behind it and doesn't just listen and doesn't even just, give $5 at membership drives, but comes out and writes to us and tells us your stories and tells us what we need to be covering. That's what makes us want to get up and do our jobs every day. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So those are just two of our many talented staff. Also over here, there he is. Mike Perini is our midday voice. Mr. Mike, step right up. Mike is the calm in the middle of the day as you weave through the remainder of the news hour on BBC and the Diane Rehm Show and Fresh Air and all the way through till Jen White takes over with All Things Considered in the afternoon. Say some words to your people.
I'm short, but it's an honor to be here, and it's really a privilege to work for Michigan Radio, to bring the news to you. And as I learn about the news every day as it comes up, every moment is new news, more news. What I really appreciate is that I'm able to share it with you. We couldn't be this news service without you because we know how much you appreciate the information that we bring you every day. And so I just want to thank you for coming tonight. It's really great to meet you.
All right. I will give some more introductions as the early evening rolls through. We hope you'll stay with us as long as you're able to, and certainly we're a better opportunity than wet streets, so please enjoy the food. Thank you for making us as successful as we have been these first 65 years of our existence. We're going for at least another 65, and that's why I want you to understand and meet the new generation as I have introduced Zoe and certainly introduced Kate Louise to show you that public radio continues to grow new and wonderful talent, as well as those such as Hazen, who gave us the foundation to be successful in the first place. So once again, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here tonight, and let's enjoy it. Thank you. It has been a traveling party. People have been coming in and out, enjoying the summer festival as they wipe away the rain, and we have a chance to have you enjoy the music outside as well as this good camaraderie, food, and fellowship inside here on behalf of Michigan Radio's 65th anniversary of our flagship station, WUOM. Yes. Some of you might have been here earlier and you had a chance to say hello to Hazen Schumaker, who was one of my predecessors as the director of broadcasting at the station, and he was on the air from 1967 till 1998 with his well-known program called Jazz Revisited, and Hazen was a very important part of the legacy of Michigan Radio, so we were thrilled that he could be here tonight. I'm hopeful that one of our other alums, our radio alums, is able to make it tonight. I'm not quite sure, we'll find out, but I'm going to mention him to you anyway. His name is Bill Stegath. He was the second sports director of WUOM. and he served on the station from 1949 till 1962. And Bill is 94 years old. He is a member of my Rotary Club of Ann Arbor, and he is as sharp and as bright and as witty and as well-dressed today as he was back in those earlier years. And I'm very hopeful he can join us, and if he does, I'm going to make sure that each one of you get a chance to meet him. But those are just two examples of the dynamic legacy that WUOM has had the pleasure and opportunity to benefit from in all of these years. And it allowed us to be the current stewards of today to allow the station to continue its success because of a great foundation that was laid in back in 1948, and even before then, the station continues to thrive today, and that's certainly due to your support with your membership and the great ability that you have to tell others about Michigan radio and the good things that you like to hear on our station, including award-winning news and information. Earlier, when I was remarking earlier, I had a chance to introduce some of our staff members, and I'd like to go around spontaneously and unrehearsed around the room again and introduce you to some others that have come in and joined us since that time. One of the reasons I'm able to come up here to the microphone, and one of the reasons the station is able to stay on the air, is our chief engineer, and his name is Bob Scahn. Bob, why don't you come up here? Bob keeps all of the transmitters going, both certainly WUOM in Dexter. Have you ever been out to Peach Mountain in Stinchfield Woods? That big tall tower is ours. It's been there since 1948. Bob is responsible, along with Tom Peterson, our associate engineer, of keeping everything functional at that site, as well as our site in Flint and WVGR in Grand Rapids. It's no small undertaking. And then Bob himself keeps our studio plant working at our studios at West William and 4th Street. So Bob has just installed, with your generosity, all brand new consoles in our studios, so everything will sound clear and technically perfect. And Bob also, and we're going to work this out next year, Bob also has a wonderful talent because he has a trio called the Bob Scahn Trio, BST as we know it inside the station. And we're going to see to it that he's on the stage next year at the Ann Arbor Summer Festival.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
So Bob, quickly tell our friends here how long you've been at the station and kind of a bigger scope of what we're doing right now technically.
Well, I started the station back 15 years ago, before we actually started using computers to play audio. So everything was done on tape, and it was a lot of fun back then. And when we got our first computers, we started automating things, and it's grown to a fever pitch right now, where I don't know how many computers we have at the station right now. And I also want to give a thank you to Rusty Brock, our systems administrator, who keeps track of all of those computers. Back when I started with the station, I was actually on the air in the morning on Saturday and Sundays, and the director of broadcasting then mentioned to me that we were going to be moving the station at some point, and I said, you know, I know how to build a recording studio. I used to do that in my previous life. And he said, well, why don't you be the chief engineer then and build a new station? And that's what I did. And we're at the Argus building now. We moved from the LSNA to the Argus building. And in the transition, I pulled out a lot of old gear, and it's on display there. And you're welcome to come by probably next year when we have our this party again. And we did bring a microphone along as well. That's probably back from the 1950s. And we do have some older stuff. We have actually the original console that was used back in 1948, and probably previously there was one in Angel Hall, because the station actually broadcast from Angel Hall before it moved to the LSNA building in 1948. So it's a lot of fun as an engineer to work for the station, and thanks, Steve, for putting me on the spot here. And all of you have a great night, and enjoy yourselves.
All right. So as we said, Bob is very important, not only keeping the regular operation going, but particularly when he gets those calls overnight or early in the morning, the transmitter automatically calls him and talks to him and tells him what's wrong. It's kind of like, well, I don't know what it's like, but it's an automated voice, and he takes care of any ailments our transmitters may have. Part of the legacy of the station certainly is the content of what we produce and what you listen to and why you decide to stay attracted to Michigan radio. And one of the features that's been on the station the longest is one called the Environment Report. And the Environment Report is a production that was originally from the Great Lakes Radio Consortium. It came out of Lansing and moved to Michigan Radio as its permanent home many years ago. Two of the key players of the Environment Report are here tonight, and they have other responsibilities now at the station, and I want to introduce both of them to you. So Lester Graham, come on up, and Mark Brush, come on up. I'm going to mention that Lester right now, about a year ago that we repurposed you, so to speak?
3 years now.
3 years ago, okay, time flies. 3 years ago, when we were looking at the Environment Report and all the resources we had, we also looked at the reporting talents of Lester Graham and also responded to your interest in wanting to have a station unit that did investigative reporting. And we knew of Lester's capabilities in that respect. So Lester is the Michigan Radio Investigative Unit. He's done a number of key reports that have dealt with everything that is pending in the news. It might be the impact of Obamacare. It has been most recently the impact of the legalization of marriage laws and the impact of LGBT issues in the country. And Lester continues to do that. That is his prime work now. He was a long-term key editor, senior editor of the Environment Report. And so I'd like you to say hello and welcome Lester Graham.
Thanks, everyone. I want to talk a little less about the Environment Report because I want Mark to do that because he started just about the same time I did with the Great Lakes Radio Consortium back in 1998. What I do want to say is, I've been with Michigan Radio for 15 years in one capacity or another. I also worked at other public radio stations in the nation and commercial radio stations. And I have to say, the staff at Michigan Radio is one of the finest I've ever worked with. No, it is the finest I've ever worked with. And I am constantly being encouraged by younger reporters coming in who are just so talented. And I keep thinking, wow, if I would have had that talent when I was their age, where would I be now? But I just want to say this is a great staff that you support at Michigan Radio, and I want to thank you very much for your support. Mark?
Now, Mark Brush has also been a key player in the Environment Report and still contributes to the Environment Report. When Rebecca Williams, the anchor of the Environment Report, is on vacation or on assignment, Mark takes care of that control. And about, is it 2 years or 3 years? Is it the same window now? My God. They don't tell me nothing. 3 years ago, when we decided to have a more aggressive and more timely response of how we purpose our content to the online and digital world, we had Mark take the leadership role in our newsroom, making sure that what you read on MichiganRadio.org is as accurate and as deep as it can be, in addition to what you hear on the air. So Mark, tell us more about what you're doing now as our online editor and a little bit about your time at the Environment Report.
All right. Well, yeah, like Steve said, I started 3 years ago as the online editor at Michigan Radio. And one thing I like to say is there's no such thing as one web guy. I really just support the entire staff at the station. And so everybody contributes to the online website. And I'm just there to help coordinate them. And as journalism changes over the years, we're there at the forefront trying to create what we do on air and give it to you online as well in the best way possible. So it's a team effort, and like Lester said, it's just an honor to work with everybody at Michigan Radio because everybody has such a talent and they're also dedicated to their job. The Environment Report, I started same time Lester did back in 1998. I was a grad student at the School of Natural Resources studying environmental policy and planning. And on a lark, I thought, well, there's this job opening at the radio station. I'll go over there and apply there. And I did and just fell in love with it. And I had the good fortune of being hired on full-time after I graduated. Unlike a lot of my student friends who were graduating and looking for work, I actually had a job when I graduated, so that was unique. And working for the Environment Report for so many years was just a treat. It was started off as a regional environmental reporting unit. A lot of public radio stations didn't have the skills to report on the environment and the in-depth knowledge to report on the environment. And we brought that and produced that in-house at U-M and gave it out to the stations around the region and later became a national unit. So I just wanted to say thank you for supporting us because if it weren't for you guys, we couldn't do the work we do.
Great. I'd like to make one more introduction. the Michigan Radio Newsroom is a tremendous amount of talent. We have 22 individuals on our staff that either report or produce content or are responsible for generating the content that ends up on the air and online. 22 individuals out of our 42 total headcount are producing content every day for Michigan Radio and MichiganRadio.org. One of those fellows is a gentleman who's truly a roving reporter, and he covers mid-Michigan for us as well as Flint, and that is Steve Carmody. Step right up, Steve. Now, Steve is the only reporter on our staff that I'm aware of that has been a reality show contestant. And I hope you won't hold that against him. But I do want you to mention that because it was a pretty sweet deal. Steve Carmody.
Well, it's a sweet deal, but also working for Michigan Radio is a pretty sweet deal. Listening to everyone talk about when they joined Michigan Radio, I was reminded that I was fortunate 8 years ago that I was fired from another job because it was perfect because you were looking.
Yes.
And I got in touch with Michigan Radio, and it has been a wonderful experience for the last 8 years, being a reporter, doing stories recently up in the UP, and a lot of things in Flint and Lansing and Battle Creek. So I do a lot of traveling, which I guess does dovetail nicely into my experience as a reality show star. About 10 years ago, almost exactly, my wife and I foolishly decided that we wanted to go on a show called The Amazing Race, and they even more foolishly decided to take us on the show. We were such a good team, we were the first ones eliminated. But we had a very good time. We spent a month in Lisbon, actually. So we actually kind of did better than most of the people who lasted longer and had worse experiences. But Michigan Radio has been one of the best experiences in my career, and I cherish the people who I work with. Working together, we're able to produce some very good stories, but we also support each other very well. It's a wonderful experience to have.
Right. Thank you, Steve. So the reason why we kind of pause here and introduce members of the staff is I don't often get the opportunity in front of listeners and members and donors to be able to really showcase all the individuals that are part of the total team that make the experience and bring the success of the station. We certainly live on the laurels of those who preceded us over these 65 years of WUOM, and we hope that we're being responsible representatives and stewards of building the next generations of the station as well. And with your support and with your belief in what we do, we're allowed to continue to do that. And as I think all of us have reflected as we think about our time here at the station, all of us have come from maybe different career paths, maybe different experiences prior to the station, but I think collectively, the members of the staff here at Michigan Radio truly believe that this is the best career experience that they've had in their lives, which makes us happy to come to work every day and makes us proud to be representing what you believe is supposed to be good, strong public radio. So thank you for allowing us to do that. We hope we continue to make you proud, and thank you for being here tonight to help us celebrate 65 years of WUOM. Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for being with us tonight for the 65th anniversary of WUOM, our flagship station for Michigan Radio. I'm Steve Schram. I am the Director of Broadcasting for the station, and I'm delighted that you could join us tonight. We're really pleased that the rain finally gave way so that Summer Festival could also make music for you this evening. So thank you for joining us. You are an integral part of Michigan Radio, of our success as members and donors to the station. And we couldn't do what we do without your support every day and every year. So we really want to thank you very much for that great support from all of us. As I have been throughout the evening, I've been trying to introduce various members of our staff to you so you have a chance to see the faces behind the voices and hear a little bit about them. And I want to make sure we have that opportunity to do that right now as well. And I hope within the sound of my voice, I have some of my additional staff members here that have not had a chance to be introduced yet. And don't go anywhere because you're one of the people that I'm thinking about right now. Come on up here. The first voice, if you call Michigan Radio, the first pleasant voice you hear on the telephone comes from Ann Jackson.
Good morning, Michigan Radio.
How may I direct your call? Ann has been with us just a short time. Is it 2 years now, Ann?
No, no,
Just 1 year?
not even that.
Not even 1 year. All right. It just,
Previous stint.
that's true. Ann has loved it so much she came back for a second time. Ann, what were your previous years?
My other years were 1985, when we were a classical music station.
Right.
Hazen Schumaker worked there, Fred Hindley, Peter Greenquist, some of those names you might remember.
Yes.
And so I had the chance to come back and join the crew. It's a little bit different. It's news and information, but wonderfully supportive, respectful, and creative staff.
Good.
So I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ann is a true delight. We love having her on our phone and hope that you have a chance to interact with her. As I look around the room, other staff members that I'd like to introduce include two ladies behind the camera. And why don't they come forward right now? Sarah Alvarez and Kyle Norris. I'll give you a little background. Sarah has joined us. Now, tell me the years, because I'm just losing the years on everybody. 2 years?
2 years.
2 years ago, Sarah Alvarez joined us. We have a special project we work on called the Public Insight Network. It allows us to gather information from people like yourselves about expertise and topics that you're interested in. We enrolled you in this network, and then sometimes when we're looking for a story that has something to do about subject blank, Sarah will have talked to you previously and will contact you and other people so that when we're doing our news stories, we're talking with people who are subject experts and can help us lead ourselves to other people who might be integral to the story. So Sarah is our key person on our Public Insight Network, and about a year ago, we were very fortunate to receive a 3-year, $1 million grant from the Kellogg Foundation to start our project called State of Opportunity. And Sarah is a key producer and reporter and contributor to the State of Opportunity project. So we're very proud to have Sarah Alvarez on our staff.
Steve, you're so tall. Okay. Oh, there you go. See, I don't know how to work a mic unless it's the one that I'm holding in my hand, and I've barely just learned how to use that. So yeah, I work on State of Opportunity, or as one of my colleagues calls us, the Sunshine Bunch, because we report on some very serious topics. But thank you guys for being here, and it is such a privilege to do this work. It's I've been doing it for just 2 years, and before that I had an entirely different career. So I love this job, and I do feel very privileged to do it, and I thank you very much for supporting Michigan Radio.
And one of the unique characteristics about Sarah is that she is the staff member that lives closest to the radio station. She lives literally across the street, less than 200 feet from our front door.
Awesome!
So if we ever have issues, Sarah's the first one to get the call. And also, she mentioned her previous life. Sarah is a lawyer by training, and so we are very thrilled that she's taking her legal expertise and logic that she learns in law and applies it to journalism. So we're very proud to have her on board. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Over here to my left, to your right, is Kyle Norris. Kyle is obviously, from anyone who listens to Michigan Radio, a delightful host and reporter on the station. She has been doing a lot of hosting for us most recently. Christina Shockley is on maternity leave, so Kyle helped us out in the early weeks of the substitution ranks for Morning Edition. And Kyle is also an excellent storyteller and reporter for us. And Kyle has, I don't know, is it 3 years or 4?
With you guys?
Yeah.
I just got my 5-year present.
Five.
Yeah. What is it?
Don't have me guess weight at a circus either. So it just seems like everybody just got here, but the smile. You know what's good about it? That means the smiling faces are still installed, and it's all very good. So Kyle, tell us a little bit about your time here.
What do you want to know? I mean, is there like a focus I should talk about here? Like anything?
Why do you love it?
Why do I love it? Why do I love it? Because I get to talk to all kinds of cool people, all walks of life, every day. I guess I get to be let into your hearts a little bit, which is really cool. And it's so nice to see real people. You know, we sit, when we host, we sit in, I say, a windowless room. We can't see anyone, but I pretend that I'm talking to just you, and it's awesome to see you guys. But also, what I love is my coworkers. It's a pretty magic place, and I love it all. So thank you. Yeah.
You know, one of the reasons we've been able to have this event tonight is the help of our marketing and promotion department. And is Kristen available? Do we know? Can she come in here? Well, tell her to come in here for a moment. Kristen Leshevsky. Kristen Leshevsky assists our marketing director, Steve Krapinski. Kristen, come out over here. Your food, your dry room are all courtesy of Kristen tonight. And Kristen does a lot of activity around organizing all the events that we do. Whenever we go out in public, wherever it might be, an art fair, a community event, Issues in Ale, wherever you see us, you can be sure that Kristen has her fingerprints on it. From having made sure that the venue is correct, or making sure a press release goes out when something new is happening at the station, or just generally helping any marketing effort that we have, whether it be advertising and promotion that we're placing, or dealing with any of our members and donors on anything that might be related to an event that we're doing. So tell us a little bit about your time here at Michigan Radio.
Oh, seriously?
Yes, seriously.
I've had a great time. I've been at Michigan Radio for about a year, and I do everything Steve said I do. And it's been really fun. I think it's a really special station. I'm really grateful to work there.
Very good. Very good. And you also live pretty close to us too, don't you?
I do.
So it's not like hiring criteria is that you have to live close to the building, but in the last couple of people that have joined us, it's just worked out that way. So we're delighted. And Steve is not here tonight. Where's Steve?
He's
across the street.
He'll be back soon.
So you probably know that across the street at Power Center, Snap Judgment with Glenn Washington is going on tonight. So Steve Krapinski, our marketing director, is over there making sure everything goes well there. If you decide to, once Snap Judgment is finished, Glenn Washington and his cast are coming over here tonight to join you here at this reception. So if you'd like to stick around, you are certainly welcome to do that. And Glenn Washington, if you didn't know, is a U-M alum. He is thrilled to be here back in his hometown. He's actually videotaping that performance tonight with the hopes of turning it into a public television special. So we'll have to see where that goes from there. And the guy raising his arms behind the camera is Art Volo, my videographer. Art is was a long-time resident of the Ann Arbor area. He is known nationally as radio's best friend. He videotapes and chronicles radio, both public radio and certainly commercial radio around the country. And anyone who's in the business knows Art Volo's name. So we're delighted that Art has joined us tonight.
And I have video of you as a DJ.
Yeah, don't start. Earlier tonight, I mentioned someone about the history of the station who was here in its very early formative days. I said to you, if you were here earlier, that I certainly hope that he is able to join us tonight, and my wish has come true. And I'm going to introduce to you Bill Stegath. Bill is our oldest living alumna of Michigan Radio, when it was known as WUOM. Bill started on the station in 1949 and was a member of the staff until 1962. Bill was the station's second sports director. He followed Bill Fleming, who many of you might know from ABC Wide World of Sports and the Olympics back in the 60s and 70s. Bill Stegath used to do play-by-play of Michigan football when the athletic department still allowed us to do that. And Bill Stegath went on to a wonderful career even beyond the radio station with the University of Michigan in the Alumni Association, also being an associate director of Camp Michigania. I met Bill when I became a member of the Rotary Club of Ann Arbor 3 years ago, and Bill was my introducer when I was asked to come and speak about Michigan radio. Little did I know, until we got to know each other a bit better, of his legendary history with the station. Bill wrote for his master's thesis a paper called the history of radio broadcasting at the University of Michigan, covering the years 1922 to 1962. So WUOM wasn't the first participation or experiment in radio for the university. Bill's paper chronicles every detail of it in an amazing chronology, an amazing sequence of detail, names and everything. So when we decided to celebrate our 65th anniversary, it was very important to me that we bring in some of the early stewards that allowed the station to enjoy the legacy of success that it has this first 65 years and that we hope will continue for the years that continue beyond. And I'd like you right now to meet a man who inspires me when I go to the Rotary luncheons every Wednesday at noon in the Union, and is a wonderful legend and a wonderful ambassador and representative of what WUOM means to this community. Please help me welcome Bill Stegath.
Thank you.
Bill is 94 years young, and as I tell my wife, is still sharp as a tack.
Thank you. Bring the mic over here.
Bring the mic over here.
Yeah, my legs are kind of unsteady tonight.
All right, well, I'm going to stay right by you, so.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bill Stegath greeting you from Michigan Stadium and welcome you to another afternoon of Big Ten football with the Michigan Wolverines. I wanted to see if I could still remember the opening. One of the interesting things about that is, if you'll forgive me if I reach out here and hang onto the wall because my legs are kind of unsteady at my age. One of the things in broadcasting that I did when I was teaching as well as when I was actually performing was to remind my students that the opening remarks on any broadcast should be written out, just in case you forget who you are. And I remember when I first went on the air, the first broadcast I did a play-by-play, I went on the air and I said, "Good afternoon, everyone, this is still Stegath. Welcome you to," and I did a spoonerism. You know what a spoonerism is? The guy that transposes stuff. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to tell you or say to you tonight, except to say that being associated with WUOM has been a remarkable part of my life. How many of you can pronounce that easily? Give me the call letters. Okay. At one time, the FCC was concerned when Waldo Abbott, who was then our professor of broadcasting and director of broadcasting, wanted to use the call letters WUOM. And the FCC said, you can't do that. It's too hard to pronounce. The WU is too difficult. So he trained some students, had them practice in the studios, saying, this is WUOM, Ann Arbor. Then they went to the FCC and told them and showed them how easy it was to do. And frankly, for some people, if they have what we call a glottal stop in broadcasting, which is WUOM, it sounds terrible. But WUOM, if you elide it correctly, is much easier to say. And when I was the guy that had to hire announcers at WUOM, that was one of my key hurdles for them to do. Give me the call letters. I want to hear how they say 3 open vowels in a row. Make it part. There's more than that. WUOM Ann Arbor 5. And keep it smooth. Say it for me. Hey, you got good breathing, all you kids. You're still standing. Well, they say remembering is the second thing to go, and I can't remember the first. So I'm not sure what you really want me to say. Or give me a couple of questions here, Steve.
All right. So the call letters of the station were not to be WUOM. There was a controversy about what the original letters for the station that were assigned by the FCC.
That's correct, but I can't remember now what...
Had something to do with tax. Tax.
Correct.
I'm reading this from your thesis.
It's tough, you know, when you're in a situation where you can't defend yourself very well because you can't remember anything.
The story that you wrote
Yep.
was that the FCC originally randomly assigned the call letters for stations. The stations didn't get a chance to request them. They were just assigned. And you really often didn't have a chance to adjust them. And the call letters that were assigned for the station here, I believe, were WTAX. And the issue was that would be a very sensitive thing to remind donors about the fact that it is a station that is causing you more tax.
Yep. Being paid for by tax dollars.
Right.
You've got a great memory, thank you.
Well, you had a great story. I believed it.
As I recall, I think they were WATX, but it's close enough.
Yes.
And actually, Waldo Abbott, who was in our professor of broadcasting, who was the man who wrote the first book, by the way, on broadcasting, as it was being taught in universities then, was called the Handbook of Broadcasting, as a matter of fact. Waldo Abbott, his home, if you go out Ann Arbor on Washington Avenue and head for Ipsy, you'll find a nice home on the left-hand side, just past Vinewood. It's kind of an English-style home with kind of rounded eave and roofing.
Yes.
Edges. That's his home. Well, he built that home there, Waldo Abbott. Anyway, it was a remarkable career to be associated with the University of Michigan Broadcasting Service. And over the years, we tried to service as best we could a lot of radio stations in the state that didn't have opportunities for teaching music in the schools. There was a program called Festival of Music that was on for years and years and years. How many have heard of that? Anybody? A couple of people. That was designed to produce music instruction in the public school system. And we did 2 half-hour programs a week, and they were put in there as a tape. It was when we first got tape recording, we could send the tapes out to radio stations all around the state, and they would then play that broadcast on their local stations during the school hours, so the local kids, say at WSOO in the Sioux up in Upper Peninsula, WATC in Gaylord, WATC in Alpena, WAATT in Cadillac, WMBN in Petoskey, all these little towns.
That's all right.
They're all correct, aren't
Yes,
they? Good, I remember. Now, what does WUOM stand for?
University of Michigan.
But pronouncing WUOM was an interesting kind of a test, and it still is for a lot of people with that open vowels.
Well, the Festival of the Air is actually the first time that I ever had any interaction with the station. I was in 4th grade, and I would have, I went to a Catholic grade school. We didn't have a definitive music class, so every Thursday in the afternoon, I can't remember what hour it was, they would turn on the PA on the speaker in the wall, and over came Festival of the Air from WUOM, and we had the song books, and we learned the song of that week. And I believe also one of the ladies that went on to host that show is also in our Rotary Club.
Could be. Edith.
Joni.
Yeah. Anyway.
I will tell you, it is all documented in the thesis that is in my credenza, written by young Bill Stegath.
A history of broadcasting at the University of Michigan from 1923, I think it was.
22.
To 1961 in this case, because that's when I got my doctorate.
That's right.
Anyway, if you get a chance to read it, it's very fascinating reading.
It is, actually.
The first broadcasts on the University of Michigan campus were in the engineering school, where a group of engineers had inherited from World War I some signal corps equipment, radio equipment, which was then very new. And they strung up a wire between a couple of smokestacks over in the West Engineering building. And then they would report, they were broadcast at night, and at night the signal went farther in those days than it does today, too, except the stations aren't as powerful. And they would get reports from stations all around the country saying they'd heard this Michigan broadcast. And if my dissertation, we have the first page logbook of that broadcast,
yes,
which I'm sorry I can't remember because my memory's gone to pot. Anyway, it's good to see so many people here in this building that I occupied for quite some time in the Alumni Association. It was a great privilege to have been involved in Camp Michigania. Any Camp Michiganians here?
There's a couple.
Good. And if you haven't had a chance to go to Camp Michigani, you ought to take a look at it. It's a wonderful place to go. And it's one of those opportunities that comes along once in a lifetime. I happen to be here. The guy they hired to run the camp took another job and left in November. Camp was going to open the following June, so we had to have somebody run it, so they asked me if I would do so, simply because I was from the UP and my family had a cottage on a lake. And so they said, you know about living around the water.
Yeah, you win.
And so I was lucky to be able to take over and back into the job, and it turned out to be a wonderful one.
Now, during your time with Michigan football, you did halftime shows with Bob Ufer. Tell
Yes.
us about that.
Yeah, well, I did my own play-by-play for quite some number of years. We had, as I said, I think earlier, 25 stations or so on the network. And then when I retired from that, sort of, pattern was that things changed. WJR began to take over all the broadcast and feed the broadcasting stations around the state. But Bob Ufer was our play-by-play guy. And Bob and I at one time were competitors. His booth was next to mine. And Bob would be, he had a pretty energetic style. Some of you may remember his style. And some of his play-by-play would get over into my microphone from time to time. But as it turns out, he had the opportunity to hire me. I had the opportunity to work for him, but put it that way, because the band he had at halftime had to discontinue his association. Asked me if I would do it, so I had a chance to work with Bob for quite some number of years. And Don Lund, how many of you know Don Lund's baseball coach and assistant athletic director? Don Lund was also on that broadcast as the color guy. But Don very seldom got a chance to say much. Bob, in his enthusiasm, covered about all the bases in the game. So the first charge that I had as a halftime host after the first commercial was to introduce Don Lund and give him 3 minutes to talk about the game, so they knew who he was. And Don and I still laugh about that. He's around.
That is great.
Seeing this building here reminds me of the opportunity that came along to get this building. It was wonderful to have some folks generously donate the money for it. And having our own quarters for the first time was a great blessing for the Alumni Association. Anything else you need to know?
No, I think you're wonderful.
Thank
I would
you.
like to thank Joe Stegath.
Thank you.
I think you can tell why I enjoy seeing him every Wednesday at the Rotary Lunch and knowing that he is an integral part of why we're here today. And I just am so taken by his dedication. And I don't want to lose the fact that this is Dr. Bill Stegath and really reward amount of dedication that you've given to this university.
One of the things I've learned as I get older and being a public speaker, you'll probably want to remember this. If you can't possibly arrange it, have a podium to lean on.
That's all right. We'll get that for you next time. Bill Stegath. And if you would like to visit with Bill, he's going to be here with us for a while, and I hope you'll stay. I also hope you'll stay and enjoy the Snap Judgment crew that will be here before too long. Is Tamar here yet? She's at the show. Okay. I do want to make sure that you have a chance to be introduced to Tamar Charney, our program director, who is really in charge of all of the content on the radio station, and she does a fabulous job and has really given us a great team to work with as well. So once again, I appreciate the long amount of attention you've given us and this break in the activities, but stay with us, enjoy some more food and drink, and we'll have the team from Snap Judgment, including Glenn Washington, here in a little bit. So thank you very much for coming.